again, welcome back to another film review. Today's film review is about Suicide Squad, which obviously is the latest DC film following on from Batman vs Superman, which was out this year as well. Obviously this one follows a kind of ragtag bunch of criminals and villains from the DC world that are brought together on this Suicide Squad by the government to kind of combat forces from outside of this world. Ergo, basically, just in case anyone like General Zod or Superman ever turned, General Zod obviously is evil anyway, but if Superman ever turned evil, they'd be able to fight him, sort of thing. So that's the premise of the film. It's a strong cast. You know, the cast's been known for a couple of years now, and it's obviously Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jai Courtney, Viola Davis, Cara Delevingne, Scott Eastwood, Jared Leto. They're kind of the core characters, and then obviously you get like smaller ones as well. There's also a few decent cameos. Ezra Miller's Flash appears for like 30 seconds, and Ben Affleck's Batman's in it for 3 or 4 minutes. So, you know, solid way of keeping people's attention on that film, but also at the same time making them think about Justice League, which obviously is out next year. So, yeah, it keeps people thinking about both, which is good. The film starts off solidly enough. It introduces us to the core members of the Suicide Squad and gives us a backstory about kind of not how they got their powers necessarily, but kind of what they went through with their powers, how they got caught, sort of thing. And in Deadshot, Will Smith's Deadshot, and Harley Quinn, as in Margot Robbie, in their case they were both caught by Batman. Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang was caught by the Flash. And all the rest were just kind of, it just gives a quick idea of how they were caught, etc. So that's good. And with things like that, it's like going through that sort of thing at the beginning just kind of makes you care about the characters a little bit more, which obviously is an important thing in a film like this, because you want the audience to care about the characters as much as possible, not just thinking the villains who are going to shoot and murder anyone that comes past them. It kind of shows their human side as such, especially with like Harley Quinn. It delved into the backstory of how she was Dr. Harley Quinzel, and then she turned into Harley Quinn because of falling in love with the Joker and such and such. So, you know, it did delve into the backstory quite nicely there. And yeah, throughout the film, the squad have like various scraps and tussles and action sequences, which, you know, it shows off their unique abilities. Obviously, Harley Quinn she's crazy, and she has a baseball bat, and she has a gun. Shows off that. Deadshot obviously doesn't miss a shot with his rifle, pistol, gun, whatever he's got. Captain Boomerang, well, he fights and he's got boomerangs. So yeah, like, that kind of, it shows off all their individual abilities, and you know, it kind of gives you a good idea going forward what they're going to be able to do, which is always important. Because obviously, I know about the Suicide Squad because I read the comics, but a lot of people won't necessarily know all the characters. They'll know like the main few. Like everyone really knows Harley Quinn and the Joker, but you know, a lot of people don't know about Deadshot, and they don't know about Killer Croc, and they don't know about El Diablo, and you know, it's important to kind of let people know about those characters as much as possible. But unfortunately, the film, after probably the first 20 minutes, it goes downhill pretty quickly. It's like quite a fast decline. Some pretty farcical moments whenever Killer Croc talks, because it's basically, you can't understand what he's saying. It's pretty inaudible at times. Like, it just sounds like mumbling. And I saw it in a cinema, and the cinema wasn't full, and no one was really talking, so you could hear clearly what every other person was saying, but just him, you just couldn't understand what he was saying. So that was a shame. Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship isn't really portrayed properly on screen either. Like, at points in the film, obviously I won't divulge too much because it'll ruin the film, but at points in the film, Harley Quinn gets captured and the Joker is shown to come and rescue her on a couple of occasions. Now, anyone who knows anything about Harley Quinn and the Joker knows that Harley Quinn would never get rescued by a Joker. The Joker doesn't care enough to go and rescue her, so that would just never happen. So how it made it into the film, I'm not sure, but yeah, that just it's points like that where they don't stick to the comics and the way the comics went. It's kind of, they change it for people who haven't read the comics, obviously, and I suppose it appeals more to them. But it's just a shame that they got quite a few things pretty spot on in this film, relaying back to the comics, but that just wasn't one of them. Which is unfortunate, but it's, like I say, I think they obviously have to make changes to appeal to a wider audience, and I can understand that, but at the same time, it's a bit of a sad thing. It obviously did have a lot of positives, this film, though. Will Smith's Deadshot was very well portrayed, as was Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang. I think Captain Boomerang, in all honesty, stole the show for me. I think he was the best character in the film. I think that his portrayal was spot on. His Australian accent might have been a little bit too much sometimes, but overall I think he did a really, really good job of portraying him exactly the way he should be portrayed. And I was really happy about that. That was really good. And also a good thing is not normally something that gets mentioned all the time, but the soundtrack to this film was really, really good. There was songs from probably the 60s up until current day, and it blended them all in so well, and they were put into the right scenes, and the soundtrack really made you feel for the film at points, and that's what you want. You want the soundtrack to kind of dictate how you feel at times, and it was such a good soundtrack. I literally came out, I saw it with two friends, I came out, the first thing I said, I didn't say anything about the characters, I said I really enjoyed the soundtrack, which is different, but yeah, really, it was just such a well thought out and well chosen soundtrack. The songs really did fit every scene that they were in, and it just, so good. But yeah, I think one of the main talking points of this film, obviously, was the casting of Jared Leto as the Joker. Obviously, most recent times in The Dark Knight, the Joker was portrayed by Heath Ledger, which was a widely applauded portrayal, and obviously Heath Ledger sadly died, so we never got to see that Joker again. He was killed off in Dark Knight anyway, so but yeah, it was always going to be a difficult decision for A, who you were going to get to be the Joker after Heath Ledger, and B, should they use the Joker again, because obviously it's sad that Heath Ledger passed away, but at the same time, he is a main character in the DC universe, and they needed to make use of him still. So I think Jared Leto was a really good choice as Joker. I think his look was a little bit too chavvy pimp daddy sometimes, but his portrayal of him was very good. He got the mannerisms down quite well, and the voice was pretty spot on. It's obviously going to be a point for debate, because people don't necessarily agree or are happy about him being the Joker, but I think he did a really good job. It was a shame that he was only in the film for about 7 minutes total, especially when you consider that all the kind of promotional material and all the promotion for this film, and a lot of media outlets have been covering what Jared Leto did on set, and how he was so engrossed in the character that he was sending the other people gifts as if he was the Joker. So for me, that it's kind of a drawback that he was only in the film for 7 or 8 minutes in total, but hopefully in the future he's going to be maybe in Suicide Squad 2. I know they've already written that script, so hopefully he's in that. And I think Jared Leto could be a really core defining Joker. He just needs more screen time. And like I say, it's just unfortunate that he wasn't in the film more, but these things happen. But yeah, it's hard to argue the casting choices for this film. I think a lot of them were pretty spot on in look and portrayal of the characters. They got the mannerisms down pretty well, so that again's a good plus. But overall, I think you leave the cinema after watching this kind of thinking to yourself, it's a case of what if they did this differently, or what if they did that differently, or what if they stuck to the comics a little bit more here and there. And that's unfortunate, because you don't want to leave thinking what if, but you kind of do with this film, which is a shame. But it did what it needed to do. It introduced the Suicide Squad members to the cinematic universe, and now obviously that they're in the same universe as Batman, Superman, and the other Justice League members, they are obviously going to cross over at points, like Batman and Flash did in this film. But yeah, overall, I think I'd give this film probably 2.5 stars. Mainly the 2.5 stars was coming from Will Smith, Jai Courtney, the soundtrack, and the Joker at times. The rest of the film was slightly disappointing. There wasn't there wasn't main things that were wrong with the film. It was just little things that they just could have done slightly better, and it just, yeah, it was disappointing that they couldn't get it right. But obviously, there is going to be a second Suicide Squad film. Hopefully, they improve that, take into account feedback from this one, and just kind of go on from there. But yeah, 2.5 stars I think is fair, and yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely go and see it. If you're a fan of comic book films, it's definitely worth seeing. Just so you can form your own opinion, obviously. But at the same time, don't go in with too high of expectation. Don't go in thinking it's going to be the best film since, Avengers, Infinity Wars. Not Infinity War hasn't even come out yet. Ignore me. Anyway, it's not going to be like the best Marvel DC kind of film of all time, but you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it for what it is. So, but yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed my review of the Suicide Squad film. Leave a like and subscribe if you have. There'll always be film reviews in the future. I always try and see a couple of films a month, just so I can review them. There's quite a few decent films coming out in the near future, so that'll definitely help. But yeah, like I say, I hope you really have enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.